Blog Talk Radio.
Me chamo Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut, Neye Ujira da, Medinde Ujirapo, Kwesi, Rada Huta, Akan, Akwamana Maruka, Titi Mu Ojirapo, Ujiramu. Greetings to all Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people in Africa, people today is Ojira Day, Purification Day. My name is Ojirapo, Kwesi, Rada Huta, Akan. Ojirapo of the Afu nation in North America, within Ojirama, purified nation, Afuraki, Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere. Yet I thank you once again for tuning into the broadcast. If you have any questions or comments on the phone line, simply hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised and we can interact with you on the phone. For those who are new to the broadcast, we have 4 broadcasts. We have Akan, ancient, authentic Akan Ancestral Religion on Joda, Akan Ancestral Religion. Authentic because we're talking about ancient Akan culture coming from ancient Khanat, which is Nubia, migrated from ancient Khanat, reestablished themselves in the western part of the continent, reestablished Khanat or Empire a couple of thousand years ago. 1,000 years later, some of our people migrated from that region further south towards the regions of contemporary Ghana, Ivory Coast, and reestablished Akana civilization. A few hundred years later, some of our people were forced from those regions into North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, and Europe during the Musuo Kessie, the enslavement era. How we end up in the Western Hemisphere. So that ancient lineage or blood circle from ancient Khanat to the Khanat Empire in West Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnut, Kessie, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era. Thus, Akan religion is manifest and expressed as Winti in Suriname in South America, as ODWIRA in Jamaica, as Hoodoo, the Akan Ancestral Religion in America. From the Akan root, Undu, meaning medicine from plant life, trees, plants, forth, but to become heavy with the spirit invocation. So this is what we deal with on Akan Nana, the deity, the nature of the Nananom, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. On religion in general, not just the Akan expression, but Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, African ancestral religion, which we call Nana Song, and impacts every aspect of our lives. Our ancestral culture, our way of life is animated by ancestral religion, by Nana Song. In essence, ancestral religion is the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through ritual we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to harmonize our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. And through ritual we reject those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject, restore balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and thus realign ourselves with divine order. So the ritual incorporation of divine law, the ritual restoration of divine balance, these are the expansive and contractive poles of ancestral religion. We say that ODWIRA or purification operationalizes Nana Song. Purification operationalizes practice of ritual incorporating law and ritually restoring balance. This is the means by which we express culture, our way of life, every moment of every day. We seek to align every thought, intention, and action with divine order every moment of every day. We make legitimate mistakes and fall out of harmony with order. We engage the ritual practice to ritually incorporate divine law and ritually restore divine balance so that we can function in creation harmoniously. That means individually as well as collectively as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people as a group. On Akwada, Wednesday nights, we have Egua Marketplace. We showcase Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit businesses, organizations, and institutions who are serving the community in a positive capacity, who also maintain their ancestral religious values in the process. We showcase a number of those businesses, organizations, and institutions. When you look at our Okon Economic Development Model page, you'll see we have published that document, an approach to economic development rooted in our ancestral religious values. You'll see lists of businesses, organizations, and institutions and their websites and their links to their broadcasts where we interview them on our broadcast. We're going to have those businesses linked on the site on a regular basis. Part of our process in Okon Economic Development is to starve the beast and feed the pride. That means on a weekly basis, you make a determination of what funds you would have potentially wasted with the whites and their offspring, and then you starve the beast and feed business, organization, or institution per week for optimal capital. So we starve the beast and feed the pride, take those funds away from the white business and redirect them to the business of the week. If you do that with $10 or $15 and redirect that from Chipotle or Walmart or 7-Eleven or some other business and redirect that $10 or $15 a week, that's a transfer of capital. When 1,000 of our people are focused on the same business, organization, or institution of that particular week, then that's a transfer of $10,000 to $15,000 away from a white business directly into a black business organization or institution. And when there's an infusion of $10,000 or $15,000 or more within the accounts of a black business in the course of 1 week and 7 days, then they are able to hire black people immediately and permanently within that business, expand their product lines and their services to us, serve us at a greater capacity, and so forth. If we do not engage that process consciously, then starve the beast and feed the pride on a consistent basis. On Yauda, which is Thursday night, we have Ama and Sem, Affairs of the Nation. We deal specifically with those specific issues that are confronting Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, and how we approach them from a grounded perspective, from an Amaniye perspective, from a nationist perspective. When we talk about Amaniye, the things of the nation, the way of the nation, we're talking about nationism, the purification of nationalism. When we talk about nationism, that means we approach life, approach issues from a nationist perspective. We recognize that the Oman, the nation, is a living, breathing entity, just like an organ is an entity that has a specific function in your body, that it executes within your body. And the organ gives birth to cells, and those cells are individuals and they have their own functions, but their functions are interdependent and interrelated, and they all support the greater function of the organ of which they are a component part. They have their own energy, they have their own life, but they are children of a greater entity, which is that organ which has its own energy and its own life and function. In the same fashion, we are cells within a great organ. The Oman, the Afuraitkaitnit Oman, the Afuraitkaitnit nation is an entity, a living, breathing entity governed by specific abosom, specific spirits, forces, and nature entities that have their own character. Because we have been forced into the Western Hemisphere, we learn to interface with this region of Asase Afu and Asase, the Earth Mother divinities, bodies in this region of the Earth. We've learned to take plant life, animal life, and mineral life and harmonize ourselves with this region of the Earth Mother. We have blended blood circles in this region of the Earth Mother, and therefore we have forged a locative identity, an identity rooted in our interfacing with this region of the Earth Mother's body, interfacing with the unique expression of the abosom, the forces of nature in this region of the Earth Mother's body, and the blending of ancestral blood circles and drawing ancestresses and ancestors back into these blood circles, these blended blood circles in this region of the Earth Mother and so forth. So we have forged a unique character and identity as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere, which we designate as ODWIRA mind. ODWIRA means pure, purified. Oman means nation. Oman also means land of the setting sun, the West. We are ODWIRA mind, the purified ODWIRA nation mind nation, land of the setting sun, the West, mine, ODWIRA mine, the purified nation in the Western Hemisphere. So we approach our issues from a nationist perspective, and this is what we deal with on Yauda on Thursday nights with Amain Sim Affairs of the Nation. Last night we started a series on the Ntorot, the Abosom, the goddess Rait, the creatress of the universe. We talked about her matricircular descent, and that includes her matricircular inheritance and that matricircular succession. She is descendant of the great mother Amenet, and of course the great father Amen, but we were focused on that matricircular identity. She's descended from the great mother Amenet, who is the great mother supreme being. Amen and Amenet, called Nyame and Nyamewa and Akan, are the great father and great mother, who are two separate entities who function together, two halves of the divine whole, as the supreme being who give birth to all things. Amen and Amenet, or Nyame and Nyamewa, the great mother and great father, give birth, as we talked about last night, to Ka and Kait, the male and female forces that govern and manifest as the black substance of space, the all-pervasive substance that contain all things within. The whites and their offspring called the physical manifestation of that great black substance dark energy and dark matter, which makes up 99+% of the universe. We recognize the spiritual forces that animate that black substance as Ka and Kai, male and female forces of expansion and contraction. They are the forces of divine consciousness that can take any form and give birth to any form. They're the divine consciousness within the great divine body of the Supreme Being. When Ka and Kayat, that black substance, is formed, Amen and Amenet direct Ka and Kayat to generate forms, ideas, simulations, and so forth within that black substance, and those become the predicates and they become the patterns for what will come into being. Amen and Amenet didn't give birth to Hehu and Hehut, the male and female forces of expansion and contraction, vitality and life, heat and breath, and so forth. So Hehu and Hehut begin to expand and contract within the black substance and cause the black substance to begin to move and have animation and so forth. That vitality of life. And we talked about that last night. And then Hehu and Hehut, as they're expanding and contracting, generate the wave energy within the black substance, and that black substance begins to wave, and waves of energy manifest within that black substance. It becomes fluid. First, it was a thick black substance because of the expansion and contraction and the vitality of life. It becomes active, and then the wave energy manifests and it becomes fluid. And the wave energy of Nun and Nunet is what is birthed within that black substance. And Nun and Nunet, the wave energy within the black substance, allows energy to be carried back and forth within the black substance. When they talk about the primordial 8 divinities in ancient Kemet and Kanat, Amen and Amenet, Ka and Kayet, Hehu and Hehut, Nun and Nunet, this is the unfolding of creation. As Nun and Nunet, the wave energy, move within the black substance, they begin to unite and wave so rapidly that they begin to generate spheres. And that same process you see with when you're talking about the boiling of water. First, water is a substance that's permeable. It can take any shape, any form that's akin to the original black substance of space, Ka and Kayat. When you add heat to that water, it begins to expand and contract. That is the addition of Hehu and Hehut. And as we said, Hehu and Hehut means heat. It also means breath, fire, but it also means expansion and contraction, boundlessness, eternity in ancient Kemet. So that boundless, expansive, contractive breath, heat, Hehu and Hehut, causes that water to begin to move. Eventually, what manifests are waves of energy, and you see waves within the water moving back and forth within the pot because of the expansion and contraction of heat within that water substance. Those waves are the waves of energy of Nun and Nunet, and those waves are moving throughout the pot now. First, it was a still substance, but then when Hehu and Hehut began to expand and contract, motion takes place, vitality, life takes place, and then waves of energy manifest. and they're waving and moving throughout the pot. At some point, those waves of energy become so rapid that the waves generate spheres, bubbles that rise up and explode or pop. In the same fashion, within the wave energy of Noon and Nonet, they wave together, generate a rapid waving of energy that generates spheres that rise up out of the black substance, and then there's an explosion of fire and light. And those spheres of fire and light that explode and separate and pierce the blackness and manifest as fire and light are the spherical forms of the energy of Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress. And they begin to spiral through creation, carving out black spheres out of that black substance, manifesting these black spheres which become the first stars, and the energy of Ra and Rait penetrate those black spheres to illuminate them, and the stars manifest, and then from the stars we receive the planets and so forth, and that's the unfolding of creation. So we talked about that matricircular succession. Ra'et's mother is Nonet, that wave energy, and Nonet's mother is Amenet. So Amenet is the great mother, supreme being. Amen is the great father, supreme being. They give birth to Ka and Kayet, Hehu and Hehu, Noon and Nonet. But then Nonet gives birth to Ra'et. And when she gives birth to Ra'et, she's the creatress, and she begins to carve spheres, expanding and contracting throughout the black substance, first fashioning and carving out entities, along with Ra. So the supreme being, Amen and Amenet, are grandparents of the creator and creatress, Ra and Ra'et. We talked about that matricircular succession last night of those female divinities. Then Ra and Ra'et, of course, we talked about how Ra'et is the mother of Neat, the great mother goddess Neat, but she is literally the Seneket Neat, or the suckler of Neat, the one who nurses the great mother goddess Neat, and so forth. And we talked about in previous broadcasts as well, Ra and Ra'et giving birth to Tuhuti and Seshat. They are also the mother and father of Atem and Asase Nebedetepet. Atem and Asase Nebedetepet come together and give birth to Shu and Tefnut. Shu and Tefnut give birth to Geb and Nut, earth and sky, and Geb and Nut give birth to Alsar, Alset, Set, and Nebetet. And Alsar and Alset give birth to Heru and so forth. So you have these different blood circles that are manifest. So we went through some of that, the details as far as the matricircular lineage of Ra'et. We talked about her being the eye of Ra, or the Arit Ra, which simply means the Arit. Not only the eye, like the apple of my eye, or the one who is in my eye and so forth, my counterpart, but also Arit means to make or to create or to do. And we talked about that connection between Arit, Ra, the maker, quote unquote, of Ra, not the one who makes Ra, but the maker of the energy that's submitted by Ra. So, for example, we talked about the sperm cell and the ovum. When they fuse together, once the sperm cell penetrates the ovum, then the ovum collapses around the sperm cell and takes the elements from that and makes something out of it. And what happens is the baby forms within the womb of the mother. Of course, the baby doesn't form within the body of the father. The baby is made within the womb of the mother after those two elements fuse. What is made, to make, to do, to create, Arit, is taking place within the mother. So she's the Arit, or the maker. She's the one that's making or doing after the fusion takes place. So she's the Arit Ra. It's like someone can be in a business partnership. One person can be an accountant. One person can be an engineer. They can say, this person, this partner, this is my engineer or my maker, my fashioner, my innovator. Ra can say, Ra'et, she is my Arit, or my maker, or my quote-unquote engineer. And she can say, with regard to Ra, he's the one who submits that kind of energy. So they have a balanced complementary relationship. So we talked about that. We also talked about Ra'et being the Arit Ra, meaning when they talk about the eye of Ra, the one who makes, when the tears of Ra come from the eye of Ra, coming from the Aten, the sun, And human beings, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, human beings only, are born of the tears coming from the eye of Ra and so forth, talking about that divine, those divine teardrops, that solar energy, that spiritual solar energy coming from the Aten and Atenit, the male and female aspects of the sun, manifests as the Ba, and the Ba is the divine living energy within us. So that little Ba bird that sits inside the chest of the person, the Ba'et bird that sits inside the chest of the person, that divine living energy is a portion of the divine living fire and light of Ra and Ra'et. We have a portion of that, a little drop of that within our bodies, and that divine living energy enlivens us, powers us, animates us, and it's an energetic link to Ra and Ra'et, the Creator and Creatress, the divine living energy permeating all created entities in creation. It's an energetic link to the Abosom, the forces in nature. It's an energetic link to the Nananom Unsamanfo. It's an energetic link to plant life, animal life, mineral life, other Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, human life, and so forth. And of course, the whites in our offspring have no capacity to possess the Ra and Ra'et, so they are not connected to that divine living energy. All they have is lower level residual electromagnetic energy, is a result of them happening to live on the planet surrounded by the magnetosphere, so that lower level residual energy is all they have. But they cannot possess any divinity. No deity will possess them. They do not have a Ba or Ba'et. Of course, they do not have a Ka or Kai, and so forth. So we talked about all of that matricelar inheritance. Now we want to get into a specific function of Ra'et as Afu Rait, Afrait, or Afrait, which is also pronounced Afrait and Ifri, Ifri in ancient languages, specifically those Akanfo and other Khanitu people west of Kemet, as well as south of Kemet, and so forth. So first we're going to get into, if you go to the Nhoma page, volume 1, Akan, Abos, Dea of the Okra, the soul, the 7-day week, 7-day Akan week. We're going to pull that information up real quick. Give me a second. Because we want to talk about some specific information about, we talk about Kanat, which is south of Kemet, which is a title of Nubia. We're also going to talk about those Khanitu, Kanu people who are west of Kemet in the southwestern desert, Libyan desert, and so forth. So we're going to put some information about some of this cosmology so we can understand exactly who Afrait actually is. And as we're scrolling through, just give me a second. And if you have any questions or comments in the chat room, you must log in as a user in the chat room to interact. If you don't have a username, you can sign up for one quickly in Blog Talk. If you have any questions or comments on the phone line, simply hit the number 1 so we can see that the hand is raised. All right, so you get to page 25 in the book Akradin Boson, volume 1. That's page 25. And on page 25, pull this up right quick. The title of that section is Kani, Kanit, Kanu, and Kangi, Akan of ancient Nubia, Libya, and Sumer, and the 7-day week. In this particular section, and in volume 1 of the book, we're talking about the nature of the Akradim, the deities that govern the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies, which govern the 7-day week culture. And of course, we're the ones who established the 7-day week thousands of years ago prior to the white offspring existing on Earth. And this section proves that it was ancient Khanit people of ancient Nubia, so-called Nubia, but Khanit, who migrated into not only northern Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, but also further into the Levant, also up into what we call ancient Sumer. We brought that 7-day week there. So we took it there. It didn't originate in Sumer, and then later on people learned about it thousands of years later once the Europeans invaded and learned about it and then brought it into North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit. It was the other way around. We took that 7-day week there. So this section is dealing with that. We're focused on the 7-day week, improving that. But part of the section that we want to focus on here is talking about ancient Nubia, Libya. And the first image you see is a Tuareg of North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit. Then we have the Ansu, the king, Osorkan, the second from ancient Khan or Libya. Now, he's shown as an ancient king, of course, so-called Pharaoh Ansu. But you see that his arms are blue and his legs are blue. Why are his arms and legs blue? What is the connection there? And we saw the Tuareg, and we also saw a female and a child in that sacred blue cloth. Now, this is directly related as we see. Now, we talked about Akan originating in the region of ancient Khanit or Khanat, spelled with the sound and T, but we know how to vocalize it as Khanat or the Khanit land. Thousands of years ago, we originated there, eventually migrated into so-called Levant, established Kanana, so-called Canaan, and Kani, which is a title of ancient Sumer. The word Khan, as we show in the Akan language, means first, foremost, former place, rank or time, first, foremost, from the beginning. Khan. Khan also means to count, to calculate, to reckon. Khan also means clear, bright, shining, and so forth. So these three definitions, when our Khan people say, why do you call yourself Khan? The term Khan means first, foremost, from the beginning, a component for the first people on earth. Khan means calculate or reckon. First, to engage in counting, reckoning, measuring, and so forth. When you recognize patterns in creation, when you align yourself with the forces in nature, the abosom, the forces in creation, they move in a harmonious fashion. They manifest harmony with nature. When you align with these forces in creation, then you can align with the flow of harmony in creation, the movement of the seasons, the movement of the animals, plant life, animal life, mineral life, and so forth. You can align with the flow of divine order in creation. When you become possessed by the abosom, the forces in nature that embody divine order, then you can align with that divine order. When you align with that divine order ritually, then you can replicate that divine order in your society, in your activities. So you can establish institutions that are rooted in order. You can glean from the order of creation the mathematical structure that undergirds the unfolding of life in creation, and therefore you can replicate that. You can engage in scientific invention, innovation, creativity, artistic innovation, and so forth, because you can align with the order in creation, because you align with the deities that undergird the order in creation. So you can count, you can calculate, you can measure, you can study, and you can replicate. So that's the foundation of civilization, to align with order and replicate that in the patterns of your society, as well as individually. So Khan, meaning to count, to calculate, or reckon, the first people to engage in calculation, counting, or reckoning, and that's first and foremost aligning with the forces in creation, because you're measuring yourself against them and fusing with them and replicating their movements as well. So Khan, meaning first and foremost from the beginning, a component part of the first people on earth. Khan, meaning to count, to calculate, or reckon, a component part of the first people to engage in calculation, reckoning, measurement, and replication. And then Khan, meaning bright, brilliant, luminous, shining. That means the light of, not only the light of civilization, the first to be able to see. Also, we're talking about the luminous manifestation of the Nanano Msamapo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, those who are spiritually cultivated, their spirits have that luminous, radiating manifestation. If you're weak and sickly, you have a dark, weak, dim, thin aura. When you're strong and powerful and vibrant, you have a strong, powerful, vibrant, brilliant aura, so to speak, or kahibit, as it's called in ancient Kemet. But it also has to do with the capacity to become possessed Abosom, forces in nature. The energy of Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress, who utilize the stars, including our star, the sun, the ODWIRA, the sun, to transmit their divine living energy. We have the capacity to pull that energy within us. We become illuminate when Ra and Rait move through us, possess us. When we're able to become possessed by the forces in nature, because we have that Bayat, that divine living energy, a little portion of Ra and Rait's energy dwelling within us. And we can direct that energy within our bodies, our spirit bodies, and so forth, because we have the capacity to become possessed by the divine forces of living energy, fire and light, and so forth, Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress. Our spirit bodies become luminous, shining, calm, bright, brilliant, because we're in alignment with the forces in nature who first brought light and fire and creativity to the created universe. So we have the capacity to be illuminate, and that also means we have the capacity to see the spirits of the Abosom, see the spirits of the Nananom and Sumafo, align with them, and so forth. So these definitions of Khan, what does it mean to be Akan? Khan, first foremost from the beginning. Khan, first to calculate or reckon. Khan, light, brilliant, shining, luminous. These are definitions in the tree language, the Akan language. But then we show the connection. Then we show the in ancient Kemet. And we compare. If Akan means first, foremost, from the beginning, in the tree language of the Akan people, when you look in the Khanitu, so-called hieroglyphs and hieroglyphic dictionary, what do you find? Khan means in the front, first, foremost, forepart, in the beginning. The land of Kemet, the front land, the first land, the foremost land, the land of the beginning is called the Khan land of Khanat, also Khanit, title of Nubia. Khanitu, dwellers in the south, Nubians, people of the Tanit, and so forth. Khan, the front land, the south. Khanitu, invoked peoples or tribes from the interior. Khanit, the Nubian frontier, land in the Sudan. So the same definitions, of course, first, foremost, from the beginning. Does it mean that first, front, former, from the beginning, front, but also as a title of the land, the front land, first land, the foremost land, land of the beginning. Akani means Akan person, Akan folk means Akan people. But Akani means an Akan individual. Khanit, in the ancient language, the dwellers in the south, quote unquote, Nubians. So we have the proper vocalizations there. Then we have the term Khan in the tree language, the Akan people today, meaning to count, calculate number. We look at the language of Kemet, Khan means to count. The key here is very important. The third rope symbol be ch sound, and in chain it can be the ka sound, which is true. That's important because of the vocalization. It's not chanu, it's kanu, which means count to reckon. Just like in the tree language of the Akan, kan means count, calculate, reckon. In ancient Kemet and Kanat, kanu means to count, to reckon. That's key. You scroll further down, that is very important. Why is that very important? Because the exact same spelling with the tethered rope, kanu or kan, means the Libyans, those who are living west of Kemet. They're not the Tehenu, as many people transliterate that name. When we see the tethered rope, this particular instance, because we know what the actual definition is, it's not Tehenu, Tahenu, it's actually Khanu. That's the next definition, Khan, meaning clear, bright, brilliant, luminous. In the Akan language, you find in the ancient language, in the Medusa, that tethered rope. Once again, we understand the vocalization here is not the ch sound, it's actually the k sound. It's kahan. What does that mean? To sparkle, to scintillate, to glitter, to shine, lightning, stone, crystal, any bright or sparkling substance, and so forth. So just like we have Khan, meaning light, brilliant, luminous, Kahan, and we have the proper vocalization, means anything light, shining, brilliant, and so forth. But the next key is, not only do you have the same three definitions, Khan first foremost from the beginning. Khan, count, calculator, reckon. Khan, luminous, shining, brilliant, and you have all three definitions, Akan language, but also in ancient Kemet. But the key is, the reason it's spelled with that tethered rope, Khan, the count, calculator, reckon, but the tethered rope with the same term, meaning the Khan people, Khanitu, and that particular spelling is talking about those Khanitu who are west of Kemet. These are the Libyans, the western, quote-unquote, Nubians, whereas you have Sudan and so-called Nubia, those are the southern Nubians. The way it's spelled is slightly different, but it's Kanat, or the Kanit people, south of Kemet. Then you have the Kanu people of Kahan, not Tehnu, Kahnu, the Khan people west of Kemet. That's Libya, the so-called Libyans. Now, page, if you scroll down to page 29, this is in italics, and this is key. When we on page 29, those who were the first to count, calculate, or reckon Khan, those first saw the light illumination, Khan, of Ra and Rait, and were thus able to establish a social order rooted in the divine order of civilization. The difference in spelling references the fact that the Khan who migrated north to settle Kemet, those who remained in the south spoke a dialectical variant of the same language spoken by those in the west. And the same is true today amongst the Akan people in Ghana and Ivory Coast. There are dialectical variants between the Asante Akan dialect and the Apamu Akan dialect and the Fanti Akan dialect in Ghana, as well as the Jamine Akan dialect and the Baule Akan dialect in Ivory Coast. And as we show, there are 11 million Akan people in Ghana, 9 million Akan people in Ivory Coast. Note that the black Tuareg people of North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit are remnants of these ancient Khan or Kanu who remained in the area. The people of the Blue Veil continued their ritual practices, including the dyeing of the skin ritually blue in honor of Amenet and Amen, as shown in the image of the king, the Ensu Osorikong II. We showed his blue arms and blue legs and so forth. The Tifinagh script of the Tuareg people of northwest Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, and they're also in the western part of the continent. The Tifinagh script, that ancient script, includes, of the Tuareg people, includes all of the Adinkra symbols of Akan culture. The Tuareg still maintain the ancient 7-day week. The Tuareg and many Akan share the same mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosomal DNA haplogroups, meaning the DNA from the mother, DNA from the father's side. That's a key piece. The reason why that's key, in the south, so-called Nubians who migrated north to settle Kemet, and you also had Khanu in the west of Kemet, west of the Nile Valley. They were living, of course, in the Sahara. When the Sahara was a great aquatic region, when the Sahara dried up, some of our people migrated to western Kemet. Some people went all the way to the river. Some people were south, and some people stayed in their various areas. Some of those people migrated. They were along in the western quote-unquote desert, living along that caravan route where there was a link. There were links of oases and various oases along the western desert, and that made a caravan route. And they went straight up into the so-called Watch or the Great Green, the Mediterranean Sea. That was a caravan route. And then, of course, there was a route going up the river itself further east. Those people, the Tuareg people, the T in Tuareg is a feminine prefix, just like the T in ancient Kemet is a suffix. So you have Khan, first and foremost, Kanat, those who are first or foremost. Instead of having the T as a suffix, which concretizes a noun, like you do in ancient Kemet, the T is put in the front in the Tuareg language. So the people are not the Tuareg per se. There's the Arek, Arika, and the T in the front is the T, Arika. In ancient Kemet, it would be Arikat with the T at the end, but in the Berber languages, they put the T as a prefix in the front. So it's the Ta, Arika, or Arika people. This is important because the name Africa is a corruption of Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, as we show in our book, Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, the origin of the term Africa. When the people of ancient Kanana, the so-called Phoenicians, settled in North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, they identify and mention people that they come in contact with there. Of course, the people of ancient Kanana, the people of ancient, quote-unquote Phoenicia. And at this time, we're talking about the Carthaginians with Hannibal and so forth. But when they settled in a portion of North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, near what is today Tunisia, Tunisia, they came in contact with the people called the Afrika people. Afrika, it's pronounced Afrika or Afrika, two different pronunciations of the same name. These are the ancient Afrika people. The Tuareg people are descendants of those Afrika people. But what they called themselves was very important. Called themselves the Afrika people because they were children of Afrait, the great goddess Afrait, who governed Africa, Afri or Afrait or Afu Rait or Afu Rait. So first we're going to talk about this goddess because, number one, when you read the Latin renditions of her name, Africa, Afri becomes Africa or Africa, Dea Africa. We showed an image of her, two images of her on the promotional image for the broadcast. The coin that we show is one of those images, and then a bust of the goddess Africa, or Dea Africa, the goddess Africa, later period bust. So first we're going to read something about the way they describe her, and then we're going to get into the cosmology to show this is Rait as Afu Rait or Afrait, Ifri, and so forth. If you look at many different sources you can pull up online, Goddess Africa, also known as Dea Africa, was the personification of Africa by the Romans in the early centuries of the Common Era. She was one of the fertility and abundance deities to some. Her iconography typically included an elephant mask, headdress, curly hair, broad nose, a cornucopia, and a lion. She is portrayed on some coins, carved stones, and mosaics in Roman Africa. A mosaic of her is found on the El Jim Museum of Tunisia, which is North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, a sanctuary found in Timgad, Tamgadi in Berber, features Goddess Africa's iconography. Pliny the Elder, in his book Natural Story, wrote, and this is during the time of the Greeks and so forth, and the Romans when they had taken over in the early 1st century and around that time period. Pliny the Elder, in his book Natural Story, wrote, quote, in Africa, nemo destinat aliquid nisi prefata African, which scholars translate as no one in Africa does anything without first calling on the goddess Africa. Now, that's one piece. We show coins, and we're going to go to our book, Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnut, the origin of the term Africa. We're going to go to page 55. We say the inhabitants of North Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnut were unmixed black people, those groups who refer to themselves as Berbers and Amazigh today are represented by the original blacks and misrepresented by the invading whites who polluted the blood of some of those blacks. The white quote-unquote Berbers are in reality descendants of the white invaders who represent themselves as Berbers, just as descendants of white Arab invaders of Kemet misrepresent themselves as Egyptians today. and falsely claim to be descendants of the original Khanitu, the Egyptians. The term Berber, Bere, and Bri has an etymology which is unknown to the whites and their offspring. The ancient term spelled BR in the Medutu later became Bar, and corrupted into barbarian in English. The term is a name is actually an ancient one. The Akan maintained the original term as a designation for black people, Africans. And we did a broadcast on Bri, black etymological and cosmological foundations, where we go into detail about this term, but briefly here, the Akan term Bri, B-I-R-I. Bri means dark, black. The suffix fo in Akan denotes the plurality of people. Akan fo means Akan people. The term obi or bi means someone. Bibri fo or abibri fo means black people. Bibri or bribri means black people in Akan. Obibri ni means a black person. Obibri fo means black people. Ibibri mine means the black Oman or the black nation, which is Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit. All Akan people, we call one another Ibibri fo, black people. Ibibri ni or Obibri ni, a black person. Ibibri mine, the black nation. Bri is where you have that BR, Bri, or Bre. That's the ancient Berber title. The whites and their offspring do not know the etymology of it. We have the etymology. We still call ourselves by that name today, every Akan person. Those ancient Tuareg, the ancient Khanitu people have been in the western, quote-unquote, Libyan desert or the Kanu region for over 10,000 years. After the invasions of the Romans and the Arabs and so forth, some of our people migrated west and reestablished the Kana Empire in the western part of the continent that became the Empire of Ghana. And then some of our people migrated further south after Muslim invasions and reestablished Akana civilization. So you have those Khan people in the south, the southern Nubians, the Khan people in the west, the Khanu people, so-called Libyans, migrating west. These are part of the Tuareg, are part of that, the remnants who stayed further north. But some of them are in the western part of the continent as well. Now, in the ancient Berber cosmology, which is over 10,000 years old, there's a female abosom called Ifri. Sometimes they spell it Ifru, Afri, Ifri. She's recognized to be a sun goddess and a cave goddess. Afri was the most influential. Nearly 2,000 years ago, we said the Roman author Pliny the Elder stated that nobody in Africa began any undertaking without first consulting the goddess Africa, Dea Africa, the goddess Africa. Africa is the Roman title of the Berber abosom divinity Afrait, Afrait, and then we show those two coins. So you see her name, Afrika, on the coin, and she is reposing on a kind of couch, and she holds those ritual implements. Sometimes they show her holding a scorpion, sometimes with that elephant headdress and so forth. Now, and those particular coins are stamped during the time of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. We did a broadcast on Hadrian, who was a bisexual, homosexual pervert, of course, and introduced the deification of sexuality, homosexuality. We did a whole broadcast on that. But these coins were stamped during the time of Hadrian. They're very popular. If you Google Dea Africa, the goddess Africa, you will see on these coins. But we also show a bust of her as well, as she was depicted at that particular time. Afrait is key. Afrait comes from Afrait or Afu Rait, Afu Rait or Afu Rait. We talked about last night, Afu means flesh. It also means house or place of residence. When Ra and Rai, the Creator and Creatress, and of course, even in their names, and we talked about this in our broadcast, Enne, names of the abosom, or the sounds of the abosom, the nature of their birth names, the reason why the divinities have their names is because of the energy that manifests or exudes from them as they operate within creation. The fiery divinities have a faster moving energy. The cooler divinities and the earthly divinities have a slower moving energy. When the energy of Ra and Rait expand and contract, when these spiritual forces move through creation, it's like if you hear a car zoom past you, you can hear that sound zoom and you can replicate that with your vocal cords. If you have a rope and you spinning it, swing it around, you can hear that whirling sound and you can replicate that whirling sound, that whistling sound with your vocal cord. When the energy of Ra and Rait is manifest, as they are spirits moving through creation, because they move in a specific fashion, they expand and contract according to their own frequency. The energy that is generated from them generates the sounds that make up their names. The Ra sound, that rolling energy, and the Ah sound. Ah is the most expansive sound you can possibly make. E is a contractive sound. Ah is the most expansive. When you have the rolling energy, the radiant energy of the Ra sound connected to the Ah sound, the Ra is the explosion of fire and light that rose up out of Nun and Nunet. You'll hear that rumbling or that Ra sound when the water is boiling in the pot. When the energy of Ra and Rait is moving through creation, it generates that rolling, rumbling sound, and then there's an explosion from Ra, the explosion of energy. The reason why Ra and Rait, which contracts that energy and cuts it and makes it into something, Arit makes it into something, the expansive and contractive energy of Ra and Rait, the reason why they have those names is because those are the sounds that actually emanate from them as they are moving through creation. Every deity has a name that's based on the sounds that emanate from them as they move through creation. We don't make up the names of the deities. We attune to them and hear their names as they move through creation and replicate them. And of course, they teach us their names as well. Ra and Rait moving through creation, enlivening all created entities, creating and then enlivening their creations. When Ra and Rait, the divine energy of creation, moves through matter, becomes encased in matter, just like heat coming from the sun, and it gets inside of your body. Now it's inside your flesh. It's encased within your flesh and it's heating you up, and then you become hot and so forth. When they move through matter, they are moving through the Afu, the matter, which is also the house or place of residence. So Ra becomes Afu Ra, Ra moving through matter. And the energy of Ra and Rait is moving inside of the earth and firing up the earth. They are Afu Ra and Afu Rait. When their energy is moving, when you see Ra sitting in the boat of the sun as an avian animal, he's sailing across the sky, he's Ra. When the sun sets and his spirit moves through the underworld, he takes on the form of a flat-horned ram, an earth animal, and he's called Afu Ra until the boat of the sun gets back to the eastern horizon at sunrise, and then it goes back up into the air, and the energy leaves from being encased within the underworld and goes back up into the atmosphere. He goes from Afu Ra back to Ra. The same is true with Rait. She is Rait, moving through creation. When she gets inside of matter, she becomes Afu Rait, Afrait, or Afrait. And this is where you get Afrait or Afri and Ifri and Ifri, different pronunciations. Just like in Akan, you have Afua, which is a female born on Friday. In the Fanti dialect, pronounce that Efua. Akua, pronounced in our Kwamu dialect. In the Fanti dialect, they say Ekua. We say Awura, which is a female of high status. In the Fanti dialect, they say Ewuraba. So that Ah and is interchanged. The same thing with Afri, or Afu Rait, as well as Ifri or Ifri, and so forth. Same dialectical variant. So when they say Afu Rait, well, Afri is a sun goddess and becomes the cave goddess. When she's sailing across the sky, her energy is moving across the atmosphere and so forth. She is Rait or Rait. When the boat of the sun goes into the underworld, she becomes Afu Rait. So she went from being a quote-unquote sun goddess into being a cave goddess. The Duat, the 12 hours of the night, the underworld, It's also called the books that are talking about that, the text talking about that, and talking about the 12 hours of the night and the various spirits that Ra comes in contact with. They will call it the Book of Caverns, meaning the Book of Caves. Afrait from the Whites and Offspring say, well, it appears that she was a sun goddess and a cave goddess. They don't know why she was a cave goddess. How could she be a cave goddess, which is something on the ground in the dark? There's darkness in the cave, there's no light. But then at the same time, she's a sun goddess in the sun and sky, and it's bright and luminous and so forth. They couldn't understand the connection between how a sun goddess in the sky could be an earthly cave goddess in the dark. That's because Ra'et is moving through space, operating, animating the sun and so forth, the Atenit, the feminine aspect of the sun. Ra is operating through the Aten, the masculine aspect of the sun. But when the sun sets and they disembark from that solar vessel and get into the night boat, and then they sail in the underworld, then she becomes Afu Rait. She is the quote-unquote cave goddess, or in the caverns, illuminating those who are in the underworld. No different than when you take in a deep breath, you pull that energy into your quote-unquote underworld, and that divine living energy is circulating within your body, your physical body and spirit body. So, she's a sun goddess and a cave goddess. Nobody did anything Afuraka, Afuraka without Afuraitkaitnut, without first consulting with Africa or Dea Africa, without divining, doing divination, communicating with her. That's through spirit possession, through spirit communication. This is what's being talked about. Now, and we also show there was a part earlier in our book where we were talking about the etymology of the term when Akan people in the Wenchi area, and we'll scroll back up for that just to connection. And we'll give you the page number real quick. Just give me a second. Okay. So on page 48, we have section, no, that's page 49. According to the Wenchi legend of origin, Wenchi is a region of Ghana where the Akan people are. According to the Wenchi legend, those Wenchi Akan people, legend of origin, their founding fathers, and this is in quotes, came out from a hole in the ground at a place called Bonaso, near the source of the Ayaso stream. The leader, Tabiriku Anye Amaniampong of the Asinye clan, the Asinye Abusia matriclan, was accompanied by the sister Asaseba Odinse and a large retinue. Another version of the tradition refers to the hole itself as Asomanini, claiming that Bonoso, meaning above the hole, is the exact site a little off the mysterious hole. The existence of ancient mounds surrounding the hole and the oral traditions which relates that brass bowls were cleansed in the Ayaso stream provides fairly convincing proof that there was a settlement near the hole. The hole itself is said to have had several galleries. This is the hole in the ground that the people say their first ancestresses and ancestors came up out of at the beginning of the world. This is where Odomankoma, which is Atim Kepra in ancient Kemet, but Odomankoma in Akan, Atumukopa in Akan, completed the fashioning of the world. And then the people came up out of the ground in this region. This is part of Akan cosmology, which is exactly the same as is talked about in ancient Kemet, with the same deity. The hole is said to have had several galleries leading to various directions, which look like ancient gold mines or a place of refuge later in the time of war. This ancient settlement, now revered as the cradle of the people of Wenchi, must have attained a high level of material culture. This can be seen in the quality of the state paraphernalia, the molten metal, the brass and the silver products, the woven kente cloth, the terracottas, brownish and glazed pottery, the artistic excellence, which is now widely acclaimed by experts. And then here's the key. Because the land was uninhabited at the time of occupation, because we were the first people to come up out of the holes at the beginning of creation, they assumed the name Yefri, meaning we are the Aborigines. So Akan people coming out of the ground at the beginning of creation, they say Udomankuma, who finished creation in that region of earth, and then they were able to come up out of the ground. Their bodies were fashioned from the soil and so forth. They were able to come up out of the ground, that hole in the ground and so forth. They looked around and saw they were the only people coming up out of that area. So they called themselves Yefri, meaning we are from the beginning. People calling themselves Bibri or Bribri-fo, Bribri people, that's Berber people. They also call themselves Yefri. And the Tuareg people and other people call themselves the children of Afri. And sometimes they spell it Yefri, the children of Afu Rait or Afri or Yefri. We've been calling ourselves that for thousands of years, all the way up to the present day. That's a direct connection between Akan people, ancient Kemet, and ancient Khanat in the western Libyan desert. We go further because we show in the temple of Paka, so-called Philae, the island itself, the place itself called Afuraka, Oraka, and Afuraka has two different pronunciations. Af can mean island, place of residence. It's a landmass surrounded by water. Af also means flesh. And when you get to page around page 54 and so forth, we get into that. It starts page 50. The term Af, as we talked about in Afu, meaning flesh. It also means tent, camp, chamber, place of residence. That's AF as well as AFU, plural, sometimes AUF, off, Afu, flesh, but also tent, camp, chamber, place of residence. But then we also have a different version, the term Af, with the F left off of it. Af and Afu means flesh, but also place of residence. Then you have another version, Af, AU. It means place of residence, temple, house, and so forth. But it also means a piece of flesh, part of the body. So you have Af, which means flesh, but it also means place of residence, AF, AUF, AFU, Af and Afu, house as well as place of residence. Then you have Af, AU, meaning house, nest, home. It also means flesh. Of course, our flesh is also it is a place of residence for the divine living energy of Ra and Araya to take up residence in so they can animate us. This is very important because the spelling, the region that they call Philae, is actually Afuraka. Afuraka. That means this is the island or the landmass surrounded by water. The priests and priestesses of the ancient Paraka or Araka said that this was the primordial mound that rose up at the beginning of creation. It's the first Ka or Kaet, so it's the Afuraka and Afurakat. And both versions, the male and female version, is shown in the Medusa. And we show that in this text. Afuraka and Afurakat, which is a version of Afuraka and Afuraikait, the male and female versions of the original mound or landmass surrounded by water at the beginning of creation. We deal with the entire ecology there. Into detail, we show the Medusa, we show the Hylas and so forth, and that's laid out. The key here is that Afuraka is also down there in southern Kemet, is the same Afuraka or Afrika, which is a title of the Afrika people, and later the T-Arika or Tuarika, the Tuareg people, they're the same people, children of Afrait. By the time they embrace Islam, they start calling themselves Beni Yefri, which means Beni is Arabic, that's talking about the sons of or the children of, and Yefri, the divinity Yefri. So they call themselves Beni Yefri in Arabic, means the sons of Yefri, talking about the goddess Yefri or Efri or Ifri. They're the children of Ifri. The Afrika or Afrika or Orika people are the children of the goddess Afri. Why do they say they're the children of the goddess Afri? Are they the children of the god Afra as well? Yes, they are. But just like in the Akan tradition, just like in ancient Kemet and Kanat, the Tuareg people, the Arek people, Arika people, they have matrilineal or matricircular succession. It's a matricircular society. That's one of the reasons they say we are children of Afri, because the matriclan is the clan you identify with, as far as your identity and your right to rule and inherit property and so forth. The patriclan also has certain responsibilities, but it doesn't have to do with succession with regard to rulership and who's going to be the next Ohini or Ohima, king or queen, mother of the nation. That comes through the matriclan. The same thing in the Akan tradition, same thing amongst the Tuareg or Arika people, the same thing in ancient Kemet and Kanat. The other reason they're called children of Afri or Ifri, Afrait, is once again, we talked about Afu Rait or Rait being the Arit Ra, meaning the quote unquote eye of Ra, because Arit also means to make, to do, to create, and so forth. The creation or the fashioning takes place within the womb and they come out of the mother's womb, so therefore they're the children or born of Afri. Yes, they're engendered by Afura and Afuraitkait, but they're born of Afri. It's a matricircular succession. They identify with the matriclan, so therefore they're Yefri or children of Efri, Afrika people, and the land itself, Afrika, and so forth. It's called Afrika, west of Kemet. Then you go all the way down to the south, where the island of so-called Pile or Pilaka or Paraka. It's the Araka land. It's the exact same title, Araka, which becomes Afrika up in the north, in northern Afuraka, Afuraitkai, and so forth. So this is the direct relationship of Afri, Afu Rait, who becomes Dea Africa, as spoken by the Romans. She's called Afri by the Carthaginians, the people of Carthagdas. And then, of course, later on, when the Arabs and other people invade those areas, they learn that these people worship the great goddess Efri, or they call her Yefri. And she's the great goddess, the Creatress, the sun divinity, the cave divinity, dealing with fertility, and all actions must go through a consultation. Everything that's important is going through the great mother goddess Afri. Now, we want to get on the phone line to see if you have questions or comments on the phone line. Hit the number 1. If you have any questions or comments in the chat room, you must log in as a user in order to interact in the chat room. And we just want to make sure we didn't miss anything here. Okay. So those are the two major aspects. What we dealt with last night was the matricircular inheritance of Afu Rait or Rait, the creatress of the universe, and what her functions are as the creatress. But then we go further today talking about her function as Afu Rait, when she's moving through matter, moving through the quote-unquote underworld, but also moving within your body and so forth. And this is why the land itself takes on that type, because the divine energy of Ra and Rait is not called Ra-Ka and Afuraitkaitnut. It's called Afuraka and Afuraitkaitnut, because the divine energy of Ra and Rait begins to move within the Afu, move within the flesh, move within the house, move within the sanctuary, move within matter. And therefore it has to be called Afuraka and Afuraitkaitnut. And of course, when the Romans talk about Dea Africa and show images of her, this is where they get this from. So we have to define that and show the same divinity as we talked about last night in Yonkonton, dealing with the rainbow in the Akan tradition. In Yonkonton is Creator Ra. Ra is in Yonkonton. In the Yoruba tradition, Ra is Odumare, Rait is Oshumare, the rainbow serpent and so forth. In Voodoo, Ra is Da, and Rait is Idohuedo, the female rainbow serpent and so forth. These different attributes of Ra and Rait, being the creator and creatress, manifest as the rainbow serpent, manifests as the serpent swallowing its tail, manifests through the sun and so forth, utilizing the sun as a physical transmitter of the divine living energy and representing the collective ancestry of all Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people. You find all of those attributes in ancient Kemet for Ra and Rait, in the Yoruba tradition, Akan tradition, in Voodoo, wherever we exist in the world. And of course, we go into detail about that in the book in Yonkonpon and Yonkonton, Ra and Rait, and we lay that out. But then we also have the connection with regard to the Ba and the Bayat in our book, Afuraka, Afuraitkai, the origin of the term Africa. All of this information dealing with Afu Rait and so forth, you'll find in Afuraka, Afuraitkai, the origin of the term Africa. That's what we needed to cover. But those who came in a little bit later or didn't hear the broadcast last night, one thing that we did do, we posted, and we did this last night, is we posted a special button on our publications page specifically for our Blog Talk Radio listeners. We have 25 books that we've published to date. We have more books coming out, and we have a special sale on our books. They range between $8 and $11, but we have the whole entire 25 book set for $125, and that includes shipping. So all 25 books as an encyclopedia set, you can order for $125. Then, of course, we also have our regular prices of our books range between $8 and $11. So whether you purchase one book for $8 or $9, we have the first 5 books, 20% off, $40 for the first 5 foundational books. The first 10 books is $66, which is 30% off, and any order of 10 books or more is automatically 30% off. But we set up this special limited time sale of the entire 25 book set for $125, and that includes shipping. So it's really like $116 plus $9 shipping, so it's $125 total for the whole set. We've had a number of individuals here order the entire 25 book set. They've been studying the information. They share that information with their children. There was a time when people would get a set of encyclopedias for their children. You can do that online and so forth. But having this kind of information so the children can be grounded fully in their ancestral culture and cosmology, this is what our people need. We've had people order from here, but people are studying the information. Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people on the continent, as well as our people in Europe, our people in North America, Central America, South America, the Caribbean. So we want to get this information out as soon as possible, as much as possible, as widely as possible. This is why we have the ebook versions for all 25 of our books available as free downloads, and we've always had that process laying that out. So if you don't have any funds, you can download all of our books in their entirety for free at any time. All of our 270 plus broadcasts where we examine our books and articles in detail, they're all available on the Blog Talk Radio channel. But then the softcover versions we do sell from $8 to $11. This is part of the process where we are able to utilize those funds to have our conferences. All of our conferences are free. All of our events here in DC and in different cities, we do not charge admissions fees. Our people only, of course, are invited and allowed only to register. All Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people only. It's a free, all of our events are free, and then we give away a free copy of one of our books to everyone who comes to our events. And we've given away over 1,300 books recently at our different events over the past year plus, and we're going to continue that process. Also, part of the reason we're having this sale is because we are working on our documentary film. We were going to begin filming last month on location for the film. It's called Amarukato Adebisa Ajumadi, African American Ancestral Divination Project. We're showing the forms of oracular divination that we have maintained in our blood circles here in North America. In the Hoodoo tradition, which is the Akan tradition, the Juju tradition, which is the Yoruba tradition, the Voodoo tradition, which is the Ebe and Fon tradition, the Wanga tradition, which is the Ovambo tradition, part of the Gullah and Geechee constellation, the Ngengang tradition, which is the Fang tradition, F-A-N-G. These various traditions, we've maintained oracular divination. We will be, it's going to be featuring different diviners, Voodoo Queen Kalinda Laveau out of New Orleans, Mama Mawusia Shakir out of Cincinnati, Rekit Kajara Nia Ya Nebehet, who's the authoress of Ra Seki Kemetic Reiki, who's in North Carolina, Wabet Seshat Tutan Wajet, who's the owner and the publisher of Wachet Yoga, but also has that divination system, that Ovambo divination system maintained in her blood circles. We will be traveling to the different cities, the seats of the shrines of these different traditions, filming in these different cities with the diviners, and we will be talking about the Hoodoo tradition and our oracular divination system in our Kwamo Mine, Amarukai Sifi Movement, Kwamo Nation in North America, talking about these divination systems, how we have maintained them, how they are key to our liberation as Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, just as they were in the past. We were guided through divination to wage war against the whites and our offspring, effectively enforce the end of enslavement. And these divination systems will serve us now, not only for healing, for medicine, and so forth, but also, and ritual practices, but also for our liberation. So we planned to start filming last month, but we had a setback with regard to a tax refund offset. So that $3,000 plus we were not able to receive because of that tax refund offset. So we have to recover from that. But we want to begin filming by next week. If we can get up to that 20% mark, we're at 11% of our fundraising goal. Once we get to the 20% mark, we can begin filming. We can begin filming on location, scheduling the trips, and going to begin the first filming segments. We still want to have the film completed by June in time for our ODWIRA Mine, Afashe, our Nationism Conference, the Purified Nation of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere. We're having our conference, second annual, in June, on June 24th. We want to have the film completed by then so we can begin to screen the film in different cities. So we're on a tighter schedule, but we can still get it done. For those who have contributed, Yerase, we thank you. If you support the work we're doing, check out the trailer, the 9-minute trailer for the film. Any contribution is welcome. The book sale was assisting in part of that process as well. If you've never gotten the books and you've been thinking about getting the books, this is a great time, of course. So I want to get on, get everything set up so we can start filming next week, so we can film throughout April and then start that long editing process in May and into June, so that we might have to do some filming in May, in the beginning part of May as well. Just depends on the time frame, so that we can get the film out to the community so people can have real information, not only about oracular divination, but also about these topics we're talking about tonight. We will address Afuraka, Afuraitkaitnit, the origin of the term Africa, the fictional cartoon characters, Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Yahweh, Allah, and so forth. We will knock that out in the film as well, lay that to us in the film as well. So our people need this information. So if you support the work that we are doing, you can directly, tangibly support by supporting the film fundraiser, the crowdfunding page. You can also make a purchase, take advantage of the sale, all 25 books for $125, or any number of books that you feel that you would like to purchase. I'm going to go to the phone line real quick. Michelle on the phone line, number 8162. You had a question or comment?
What's up, Brother Quincy?
What's up?
I had a question. It was kind of a follow-up on a question that a caller asked last night about soul washing. If someone coming into Ancestral Religion, they don't know who their Ka is or anything about their clan affiliations, how would they prepare the water for soul washing?
Okay, so what we have is when you look on the specific broadcast, Nkomre Ancestral Shrine Communication and Liberation, and in our broadcast we go through a few documents where we're talking about establishing an ancestral shrine and these different, what the nature of a shrine is and what the function of a shrine is and a basic setup for a shrine. We also have a link to an article that we call, it's a prayer in the language of ancient Kemet with the translation in English, as well as, the prayer in the Medutu, the translation in English so you know exactly what it's saying, and a link to an audio file so you can hear the prayer itself. It's a quote-unquote libation prayer, but then at the end of that, we also have a short invocation to the Ka and the Kaet. So if people do not know, and most of our people do not know what ancestral ethnic group they come from, what ancestral clan they're descendant of, the language and culture of ancient Khanat and Kemet is that parent language, and we're not just talking about dynastic Kemet, we're talking about our civilization going back 70+ thousand years before we spread out to different parts of the continent. That ancestral language is foundational. It's the same culture. We've just migrated to different places and it's taken on different nuances, but those root terms are the same. So you can use the language of ancient Kemet and Khanat to invoke, and then your Nsamanfo will direct you to what specific ancestral clan you are incarnate of. So we have a prayer in the language of ancient Kemet, but it's also an invocation to the Ka itself. And you're invoking the Ka if you're male, Kaet if you're female. When you engage that process, just invoking the Ka itself and the Kaet itself, that short invocation, and then you sit down to communicate and listen to that divinity that's in your head region, then you'll begin to learn directly from that force in creation. As well as when you communicate with your Nsamafo, you'll learn from them as well. And the combination of those two kinds of sessions, sitting with your Ka separately, but then sitting with your Ancestresses and Ancestors at their shrine, which is separate from the small portable, it doesn't have to be portable, but the small shrine of the Ka or the Kaet. Between those two, you begin to gain knowledge of who you are individually, as well as who you are clan affiliation-wise. But that's the name of that document is a sample prayer in the from Kemet with Chui Akan vocalizations. But the broadcast itself is Nkomre Ancestral Shrine Communication and Liberation. You can find that on the YouTube page, as well as on the Blog Talk Radio page channel. And the links to all of those documents are in the description box, but they're also on our website as well. You'll see the links to those articles on the website as well. But we always say we utilize that language of ancient Kemet and Khanat when people don't know exactly what group they're from, and they are led to the proper group that they are incarnate of from their ancient ancestresses and ancestors.
Madase. Hatep.
Okay. Yenya Seda. We appreciate the call. Okay. Just want to make sure we don't have any other calls before we end the broadcast, and we can end the broadcast here. It's almost 11 o'clock. So, again, Yedase, we appreciate the support. Please go to the crowdfunding page. Please share that page. We sent out an email today to the members as an update of what's going on with regard to the film. And Yedase to two of the people who donated to the crowdfunding effort. Sometimes our people will see, we've had over 5,600 views of the trailer. Everybody loves the trailer and they're looking forward to the film. But we've had about 50 individuals over the past 70 days who have made a contribution to the film. So one of our elderesses, one of the Nananom, she asked the question, with all these thousands of people and all these people liking the page and loving the information and sharing the information on and so forth, and can't wait for the film to come out of thousands of people, why is only 50 people committed to supporting? Sometimes our people cannot see the vision of something. They have to see something tangible, and then they value it. But the vision as it's unfolding, they don't see the ramifications of that. And sometimes that's in the majority, depending on the situation. So there'll be a smaller percentage of the larger population who's committed to seeing something manifest, because they can see the ramifications of the vision even before the tangible results of the vision show up. So for those who have that kind of vision, who are committed to this project, those are the people who will end up assisting. So we're focusing on those of you who are recognizing the ramifications of this vision, to see the effects it's going to have on hundreds of thousands of our people, eventually millions. We've had over 3 million hits on our website over the past 12 months. And when people see that we have a documentary film out, it's going to reach thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and eventually millions of people, our people here, as well as our people in different parts of the world. Many of our people can't see the ramifications of that yet. They'll see it when the movie comes out, and they'll share with everybody and so forth, and let their children and other people they're connected to view it. But right now, there are a smaller percentage who can understand the value. So we're asking those of you who understand that to contribute to the crowdfunding campaign. We can get to that 20% mark. We get to that 20% mark tonight. And then we can begin to schedule the filming. We can get going with the filming. Then we're going to release a second trailer after we do some of the filming, a second trailer with some clips of some of the filming from the different diviners. We're going to put that in the second trailer so people can begin to see that this is unfolding and it's coming up very soon. And then people will be, those who don't have that vision right now, they'll be able to see it unfolding and manifesting. And then we'll be able to get the rest of the film portion funded. But the first 20% will at least allow us to begin the filming process in the first 2 cities. So, into the broadcast and Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again. That's up.